Hello everyone, Carthage must be destroyed. We are looking at the attack part of Lion Rampant today. The attack part is obviously one of Wargamer's favorite parts because, you know, moving and shooting and giving orders is fun and all that, but a lot of people like the actual melee, the fighting part of the game, right? So that's what we're going to look at today. Now, I've got two units here. I've got a unit of the elite cavalrymen here, and then I've got on the bridge here a unit of elite infantrymen, and I will use their stats and show you just how attacking works in Lion Rampant. Of course, now in Lion Rampant you have attack, shoot, and move as some of your orders, and those are one of the three choices. So when it comes to attacking, you have to give your unit an order to attack. In this case, I'm going to start with the elite cavalry here. I'm going to say it's the elite cavalry's turn. They're going to charge into these infantry here. Okay, so they on their profile here have an attack value. I shouldn't say attack value. I should say they have an attack of 5 and up. And that's rolled with 2 dice. I'm going to use these black dice here. So what you do when you declare an attack order is you have to see if they'll perform it. So we roll a dice here, and it says it's a 5 and up, and look at that, I rolled just a 5. So they successfully rolled a test to see if they'll be able to attack. If they rolled less than the 5, they would fail. They wouldn't be able to move, and your whole turn would be over unless you have a leader there. So they passed, and then you want to be able to move as many models as possible into contact with the enemy. In this case, they're kind of fighting on a bridge here. So I'm going to just use my judgment here to say like they're contacted here. If you've played a lot of war games, you know that you don't have to be exact, but you want to move in this game. They say to move as many models as possible into contact with enemy models, but regardless of how that works out, you still have to make sure your models only move their unit profile. So in this case, it was 10 inches for these guys. And in this case, you know, even though these guys obviously can't fit on the bridge here, we're going to assume they're all attacking each other, okay? So that's how the attack looks like. And I'm going to move my camera here so we can get in a little better on them. So this cavalry unit has now attacked this infantry unit here, okay? So what we have to do now is that the attack is going through play here. Now that it's going through play here, we have to gather a whole bunch of dice. Just like the shooting unit. If you are running a unit that has over half of its strength value, then it will be hitting with 12 dice. And it's the same with the defense as well. They'll also be using 12 dice here. So what does that mean? That means in units that have 12 men, that means that if it's 7 or higher, they use 12 dice. 6 or less men in their unit, that's less than half, that would be, they'd only revert to 6 dice. And for small units like this one, 6 infantry or 6 cavalrymen, if it is 4 or more men, they're going to be hitting with 12 dice. But as soon as you hit to 3 men, they go down to 6 dice only. So you have to remember that when your unit's at the half strength, when it's at the half strength value, it is going to be losing attacks. So what we're going to do now is we're going to roll 12 dice here. So I like to roll the attackers first. Maybe some people like to do defenders. But I have 12 dice here. I'm going to try and get them all on camera on either side. I don't have much space. But we roll here, and it says that the attack value of the elite cavalrymen are 3 and up. Okay, and I did not roll that on camera at all. That's okay. I'm just going to push him in here. So I rolled my attack value here, and I pull out everything that is a 3 and up because that's what they need to actually hit something. They're really good on the attack. So I take out those, and I find out that I rolled how many hits here? I rolled a total of 7 dice, okay? So you can immediately, if you want to, kind of divvy it out if you want, you know, start removing models. But I like to actually see what the enemy does at the same time. And I do not believe in Lion Rampant that the attacks are not happening simultaneously. They are happening at the same time. So you still, you know, even if you have less units, you're still going to use the amount of attacks on both sides or defense. So let's look at the elite infantry here. The elite infantry aren't attacking, but they still have a defense value. And according to their profile, their defense value is 4. Now, if they were attacking, it would be 3, but they're not, so it's going to be 4 and up. So let's see how that looks like on this blue dice here. So I'm just going to roll on the side here, and the defense value isn't a value where it's trying to determine, oh, we stop blows. It's to see if we hit guys back, right? So it's all attack based. There's no defense. There's no, like, you know, there's no armor or armor saves in this game. It's just seeing who basically inflicts the most damage. It's just when you're not being attacked, you're using a defense value, but when you're attacking, you're using an attack value. So I rolled that there, and I saw that I've got, they say their defense value is 4 and up, I believe it was on the inventory. Yep, it's defense value 4 and up. So there we go, that's the result of the roll. So now what we do is that we take the armor value of these units. And I know that both units have an armor value of 4. And you have to see how many hits you got. If you reach that value of armor, then you've caused a wound on the other enemy. So in this case here, I have 7 wounds on the infantrymen there. Not quite 8, right? So you have to get every 4 on this unit because their armor is 4. And I'm able to kill 1, and even though I got 3 extra hits here, I didn't reach 4, so these are just discounted, okay? So I caused 1, I caused 1 wound there. Now in defense here, in their attack back, they also got 4, and my armor here is also 4. So they also lost a unit there, right? They lost, not a unit, but they lost a single soldier there. So in this case, the attacking unit has come in, and they fought, and in essence, the fight is a draw here. Now, I'm going to also talk about lucky blows here. If you're fighting and there's a unit in the enemy side, it doesn't matter if you're attacking or defending, you have to roll to see if you've hit the enemy, so enemy's leader, I should say. So if the enemy's in there, you might get something called lucky blows. On a roll of 2 dice, if you roll 2 dice and you score 2 ones, you've actually hit the enemy leader if he's in that unit. In this case, I'm going to assume that maybe there's a leader in here. They didn't roll double ones, so no leader's dead. So that's something to remember. It also applies to shooting and for melee. If the leader of a warband is in the opposing side's unit there and they're fighting or getting shot at, if you roll double 1, you actually hit the leader itself. Now something else I'll just mention here really quickly because it's important. If your unit is battered, remember you cannot give them an order. They'd have to have been able to rally. But in this case, nobody was battered. But a unit that is in the defense part of the attack phase could be attacked and be battered. If they were battered, they'd be only hitting on 6s instead of the 4 and up that I was rolling on each individual dice there, okay? So nobody was battered, and I'll look at rough terrain stuff a little bit later on. But yeah, just remember, if you're attacking a battered unit, the battered unit's only going to be hitting you on 6. So ideally, if you can run in and hit some guy that's battered, hit some unit that's battered, that's the better way to inflict more wounds without actually taking hits yourself. So now when we're ending the attack part of this game, or this phase rather, because there's probably many attacks in here, you want to see essentially who's the winner, who's the loser. In this case, we saw it's a draw. But both sides took casualties, so both sides actually have to do a courage test. If you take casualties in, be it shooting or fighting, no matter if you're defending or attacking, if you lose someone, you're going to have to do a courage test. Now, we know that this side of the unit, this guy, the horsemen, they attacked, they lost a unit, or lost a soldier in the unit rather. Their courage is 3 and up. Now, because they've lost one guy, it's going to be -1. Now, they rolled a 6, so 6 minus 1 is 5. So their courage is 3 and up, they're okay, their courage is 5. And if they fight again next time, their unit strength is still above half, so they're going to be hitting with 12 dice again. Now let's roll for the bad guys. They also lost a guy, and they're going to do a courage test. They also have a high leadership, or courage rather. They also have a large courage value of 3 and up, and they only lost a guy, so this 10 becomes a 9. So they're both okay. So in this case, it's an absolute draw. Now, should the side here have lost, they would be retreating, and that would be that. But because it's a draw and the attackers here were unable to successfully break through and the result ended the same, this unit here actually, as the attackers, has to retreat. Now retreat is half your movement backwards away from the enemy. So that's what I would do. I would take out my measuring stick or ruler and I would move them 5 inches away in retreat here, and I'll just do that quickly. So that's how a very basic attack works out. There is not a whole lot of difficulty figuring this out, because it's basically just, does your guy in range, does they pass an order, and then you run in and then both sides hit each other. The attacker will be using attack value while the defender is going to be using the defense value. So I don't have much that I can use to really explain this next part here, but there's also issues when you storm defenses, or you're taking, maybe you got a bunch of guys inside a house or a building. When you storm a unit here in a building, then whoever, you know, if the defender in there holds and doesn't run away, obviously the building's still theirs. But if the attacker's able to storm the defense, what's going to happen is that they're going to be able to break into that building and they basically take over that building, you know. So they storm the defense, chase off the offenders, or rather the maybe they are offenders, the defenders, and then they occupy that building itself without moving beyond anything. Now, there's no mention here of any like extra moves after you win or you know, defeat someone in a combat. So even though these guys won here, they don't get any special moves. If the attackers back here, if they had won and drove them back and forced them to retreat, these guys wouldn't advance any further. These guys would just retreat back 3 inches, and you know, there could be a chance they're battered. If not, you know, they could have, you know, they could maybe attack back the next turn, something like that. So I want to talk a little bit about terrain here. I'm going to remove my bridge here as I mention it. But the terrain is going to affect attacks as well. Now, I'm going to use my river here, and I'm going to call it rough terrain. And rough terrain, normally, as we looked before, might slow down your unit a bit. That's fine. I'm going to revitalize all these guys' men. Go back to full strength here. Now, you might be in a situation where you're going to fight on some rough terrain here, and normally what happens for most units, unless they're fast, is when they're in rough terrain, they're going to be moving very slowly. Now, I'm calling this river rough terrain here, and I'm going to do something a little different. So, rough terrain, when you fight in rough terrain, regardless of the unit type, if you're fighting in rough terrain, everyone, and I mean everyone, it doesn't matter if they have good profile or a bad profile, everyone's values, their attack and value, or rather their attack and defense value goes to 5 and up, and their armor's only 2, unless their unit is flexible. And these elite infantry are flexible. They retain their normal attack value and defense value when they're in rough terrain. They're not affected by that. Their armor also stays the same. So let's do this situation again here. Let's say that these cavalrymen here are wanting to charge these guys in the river, and they're able to do so. They're within, you know, they're 3 inches away and such, and we test again. I'll do another test here. So these cavalrymen here are going to attack these guys here. Maybe it's a wild charge, maybe it's a regular attack. It doesn't matter. They have to test. So they rolled a 12. That's a really high roll, and I know that their attack value is really low. So they're going to make it. So they pile in there, remember, lining up around all the guys possible that you can. So maybe it might look something like this, you know, without anyone moving beyond the 12 inches. I'd probably do something like this. You don't have to be exact. Now, these guys, the cavalrymen, they may not appear to be in rough terrain all that much, but it doesn't matter. If one unit is in rough terrain, even if a few guys are in rough terrain, you're just going to count it as fighting in rough terrain here. So everyone here is fighting in rough terrain. Now, this unit here, the guys with the cavalrymen, they got 12 dice on their attack, so they're going to roll. But because it's in rough terrain, now it all becomes 5 and up instead of their 3 and up on the charge. So they're going to roll. And off the camera there again, I don't have much space to work with. 5 and ups here, and they still did fairly well, I think, for a rough terrain attack. But they scored 4 hits here, and the rest are discounted, right? So their attack and defense value has gone down to only 5 and up. But because these guys are flexible in the back, they retain their value. So they're still 4 and up on the defense, which is an advantage here. So you can see how rough terrain, some units fighting in rough terrain, like if they're flexible, like an elite infantry unit is, or if there's something like a, you know, maybe they're yeomen and they're already, or not yeomen anymore, it's light infantry. Maybe they're light infantry men and they're not so hot regularly. Suddenly they become much more dangerous in rough terrain. So some weaker units, actually, even levied troops, might end up being better in rough terrain than they are normally in open. So they retain their 4 and up. So let's see all the 4s in here. I'm going to say that one was a 6. See, these guys did much better hit-wise against these cavalrymen on their defense rolls because it's 4 and up. Wow, so look at that. So let's divvy this out. These attackers here, they scored 4 hits, and they're retaining their armor value back here, so that's fine. They've lost 1 guy here. They've got armor 4. Now, these guys here only have armor 2 because it's a rough terrain fight. So that means that 2, 4, these guys back here scored 7 hits. You just count the one that, you know, doesn't meet the armor value. They've scored 3 hits because of rough terrain. So the cavalry don't do so hot here in the rough terrain, and they lose 3 guys. Now, if we were doing the courage test, which we'd have to do, both sides lost casualties. So let's see, the unit back here lost 3 guys. It's a -3 the courage test, and we'll talk about courage test more later. But now there's 7 suddenly becomes a 4. Now they're still okay because their courage is, I believe, a 3 and up. So they should be fine. And the guys back here that only suffered 1, they roll, and they're also good. It's an 8 minus 1 would be 7. And all that. There's, what does it say? There's no leaders here, no lucky blows. But yeah, you can see how rough terrain can totally flip around the attacking situation when 2 units might be fighting. There's also other terrain situations, like there's cover here, which gives the defending guy behind cover an extra armor value. So if these guys were here, their armor would not be 4 anymore, it'd be 5 because they have cover if they're defending it. Also, if they're on a hill, let's say, they also, what does it say here? I'll look quickly here. The hills count as cover for a defending unit. So if you're on a hill, you also get cover if you're a defending unit, but that doesn't work against shooting. So cover, say a wall or something, gives you 1 armor against shooting and attacks, but for on a hill, then it only gives you cover for actually attacking units. So yeah, you can see how rough terrain and other terrain might, swing the battle in your favor. So very simple system here. There's only one more situation I want to share with you guys when attacking. I'm going to change the thing up here now. I'm going to put my cavalrymen here. Let's say they're here, and they're all back full strength again. And I'm going to put my cavalrymen here. They're running along there. But for whatever reason, maybe my infantrymen here, we'll say they're 3 inches away. Let's say my infantrymen here get the jump on these cavalrymen. And they're 3 inches away. Let's say they get the jump on them and they say, we're doing the attacking this time. Okay? Now, elite infantry are also really good on the attack. They're going to be 3 and up. But we still have to test. So let's take a quick look at the, I think their attack order. So elite infantry are 5 and up to attack, while the elite cavalry, they're also 5 and up. Okay. So the attack order is going to be 5 and up for the elite infantry here, and they roll, and they only got a 4 here. Guess what? The leaders nearby re-roll that. Oh, they rolled 4 again. So this would be a fail. Let's, and that would end the turn. But let's say they pass. I'm going to cheat here. And yes, they rolled an 8. So these guys have ordered an attack. There's situations where units have an evade order or a counter charge order they can do as a reaction to an attack. In this case here, I don't have anyone with evade, but the actual unit's profile will explain what it is. In this case, elite infantry have a counter charge order, and on a 7 and up, it says in the rules here, and I rolled an 8, they can counter charge. So what happens is that they meet at a spot in the middle, and it counts as both sides as attacking. Whereas if they had failed, this unit here would be using their defense value in fighting. But now that both sides are attacking, they would line up in the middle here, and they would both use their attack value. Now, if that happened, they'd both be getting lots of hits because elite infantry running in and charging and elite cavalry running in and charging is both equally as deadly. And I won't play out the whole battle of you because I don't want to battle for you because I think I'm almost done filming here for today. But basically, yeah, there's situations where you can react to attacks, and that's usually going to be something like cavalry countercharging, or you got light cavalry or skirmishers that can evade and do other things like that. But we'll go more into that stuff later on. And the final thing is too, again, look at the infantry profiles. Some units are going to be really good at attacking, like elite cavalrymen and elite infantry, great on the attack. They go into attack, they're going to be you order them on a 5 and up to do the attack, and then they are going to be hitting usually on a 3 and up on either 12 or 6 dice, depending how strong your unit strength is. Some units, however, like let's say heavy infantrymen, are actually better on the defense. Their defense value is better than their attack value. So you always want to check your units and how you're stacking them up. Like, if you want a very defensive army, maybe you want a defensive warband rather. Maybe you want more heavy infantry. Elite infantry will definitely do it. But if you're fighting other things, like maybe you just want more defense, more troops to burn around, heavy infantry will definitely do better on the defense unless they're veterans. In this case here, just to put in a final note, these elite cavalrymen on the defense, just to compare, if the infantry here had attacked them and they didn't countercharge, the infantry would be hitting on an attack value of 3 and up. But the cavalry, if they failed that counter charge, their defense value would only be 5 and up, right? So you'd want to make sure and hope that that counter charge, when it comes, hits, because then at least you can meet the enemy and hit each other on equal terms. Otherwise, they take an attack and their defense value is actually not that great. It's only 5 and up. So yeah, there's, you know, every unit has a strength and a weakness, whether it's attacking, defending, and shooting and all of that stuff. And yeah, you'll have to get the book to see how each of them works. So that's my video on attacking. I hope you guys like it. Let me know what you think. It's very simple in this game. The next time we get into a video, we're going to be looking at basically courage tests, and courage tests are also quite simple in this game. It's the same test for shooting, attacking, and testing some other things, but we'll get into that into the next video. So thank you all for watching, and like and subscribe if you want to see more. We will see you guys on the next one. So have a good one. Bye bye.